This time I'd like to call the budget workshop to order. Ask for a roll call, please.
Hervey? Here. Lewis?
Here.
Mitchell?
Here.
Moon?
Here.
Sample? You have a quorum.
This time I'll ask for the emergency announcement. If something happens, there's a door goes right here, one goes that way. Stay out of the way of the trucks and out of my way. Okay. I'll ask now for any input on items on the agenda. Seeing none, we'll move on to presentations. We've been requested to move 51900, which is GIS, up to first. So at this time, I'll ask Ray would come up, please.
Good afternoon. I appreciate the accommodation. Thank you very much. My name is Ray Boswell. I am the GIS manager for the Blount County GIS group. And are you hearing me? Or yeah. I guess just brief background on who I am and what I do. The GIS group it's a consortium of City of Alcoa, City of Maryland, Blount County government. And so my funding is a 1/3 split between the governments, and so I assist departments within the three governments with any matter-related needs, technology, database needs. So, not certain how much detail to go into, but as far as my fiscal year 15 request is concerned, it's a small decrease over the fiscal year 14 funding. I think 1.5% when it's all said and done. Of that money, a good bit of it goes to software maintenance for applications that folks within the three governments utilize. Another part of it, 13%, is actually goes to Alcoa and Maryville's electric departments. This is for the fiber facility charge. We have a fiber optic network that connects all three governments together. So this amount goes to the electric departments for operations and maintenance, and then for ongoing capital needs that they may have as time moves on. The large request that I have in this year's budget is an update for our elevation model. The last time that we had an elevation project was in 2002, when the county participated within the state-based mapping project. And so it's been 13 years since that's been updated. So in large areas, large parts of the county, that's what we're showing the ground to look like isn't reflective of what's actually out there. So that money is within the request. And what I'm working on is to try and have partners, South Point Utility, McGee Tyson, the Industrial Board, to try to expand the coverage area from basically what we're looking at is the county urbanized area, which is what county stormwater is responsible for, and then also the sewer utility service areas for Alcoa and Maryville. So that's what we're looking at right now. If those other partners come on board, then what we're going to do is we're going to expand that contract or expand the scope of it to a higher amount. Still haven't heard from those individuals yet, but hope to hear so here within the next few weeks. As far as accomplishments are concerned, fiscal year 14 we had a imagery project. So the county was flown by a company called Pictometry. This imagery is going to be used, like I said, within the three governments. Public safety is a big user of it, as well as the property assessor's office. Also, within the past year, we've updated the website and have some more applications, web mapping applications that citizens can have access to and be able to go and find information out about zoning of property, school attendance zones, piece of property, parcel ownership, that sort of thing. So, and just jot some notes down. Some of the departments that I work with and support include the Property Assessor's Office, Sheriff's Office, Election Commission, Soil Conservation, Building Commissioner, Stormwater, Planning, Codes, Environmental Health, Highway Department, County, and District Attorney's Office. If I'm more than willing to answer any questions that you might have this time.
Does anybody have any questions or discussion for Ray?
Ray, the amendment to your budget that we approved, the county commission approved,
Yes, sir.
address what that specifically went for. Is that the fiber?
That, yes, a portion of that amendment did go to the fiber facility charge. This is the first year that has been instituted, and it's that will be ongoing as we move forward.
That is incorporated in this budget request.
Correct. Yes, sir. It is within that request.
That was, what was that, Ray? 26,000.
It was, and there is a portion of that was the facility charge that I just mentioned, and then another portion of that was software maintenance. There's one of the bigger struggles is how to make all this information available to as many users as possible, and so one of the things that we're investigating or working with is what's called software as a service, being able to use cloud infrastructure to be able to make more of this information available to the departments within the governments.
On 5400 IT services, it says this amount is still in limbo. Would you explain that?
Not certain.
In your comments, it says it's the IT services.
Oh, okay.
It went from 84 to 19, and then it says up to the side of it that this amount is still in limbo.
Yes, they're and that's something on the Maryville side of things, the way that they do accounting, and so that IT services is a charge that's included within the budget request, and it ended up being I did get an update this late last week, and it was about 3,500 as opposed to what it was last year was 7,000. So it has decreased from last year to this year.
Do you see any changes in the building and office rental?
Not at this time.
Where are we at on elevations? Can we shoot elevations off our GIS?
We do have the data that was provided in the base staffing project in 2002, and it's kind of a mixed bag as far as what we have available within the kind of the central area of the county, Alcoa and Maryville's urban growth boundaries, and some of their utility service areas. We have 2-foot contours in that area. Outside of that, what we're looking at is really 20-foot contours. And so this project that we're talking about trying to do in fiscal year 15, what that'll do is be able to get us 2-foot contours countywide if we're able to get like South Blount and Tyson Industrial Board to come along with this. But at a minimum, it would allow us to have updated 2-foot contours for the county urbanized area as well as the Alcoa and Maryville sewer territories.
Just want to make sure I'm looking at this correctly. The left column is budget request for 15. The right column is fiscal year 14 that we're in, correct?
Yes, sir.
Hey, if I understood you correctly, any additional financial assistance that is gained from South Blount or any other organization would be an increase to the work program, not a reduction of our costs or Maryville or Alcoa's. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any other discussion or questions? Ray, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you.
John, our sound sounds pretty good here. Yeah. That one's a little bit fuzzy. Back to the top of the
Next up is the library. Casey?
Hi. First of all, I want to just take a minute and welcome you and tell you how much we appreciate having the opportunity to host the Budget Committee this evening. This is my first, yeah.
Maybe. Let's try it the other way. Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Better? Okay. Anyway, this is my first opportunity to stand up and chat with you. And before I get started, I would be remiss if I did not introduce my board members that are present tonight. Sharon and Bill Beatty. I'm glad, and then I have some staff members that have been able to join us also, so they can participate and be part of the governing process. Lots and lots of good and exciting things on the horizon for this fabulous facility. Let's see, I've been here 3 months, but we've already identified the major areas for the next year will be to increase capacity through expanded and efficient operations, analysis, training, and alignment of available human resources to meet changing community needs. And then currently the board is in the process of developing a strategic plan. Projected outcomes would be to have an updated staffing structure, job descriptions, and a salary schedule that reflects actual education experience and work responsibilities of employees. Our job descriptions are pretty outdated. Budget analysis and correlation to priorities is established in the strategic plan, and then a technology plan and replacement schedule with funding options. I have given you all just a little brief from Urban Libraries Council, and I would really love it if you would take a few minutes over the next month to read it and think about how the library can better serve government. You know, we do a lot for the community, but we're also your library, and there are many opportunities that are available for us to work with you and make your jobs easier. And we are hoping that we'll be able to sit down and have some one-on-one conversations in the next few months about possibilities. This year, the budget request for 2014-15 is $2,132,120. This is a $29,000 decrease from the budget last year. However, if you look at the operating budgets, 51,800, 56,500, and 56,900, there's a $35,000 increase, which reflects a reallocation of funds to provide some pay increases for part-time minimum wage workers, as well as to we have one employee that is, their pay scale is totally out of line with county in the maintenance department, and we need to bring them up. There'll be no increase in the county allocation with request to this fiscal year. And if you'll look at, I think you have this. You have this. You can see where I have reallocated and raised some of the lines to reflect communication is actual expenditures, travel and tuition. We've got, we need to do some serious training of the staff this year. We did a technology skills survey where primarily the staff provides ongoing support for the public in the use of their technology devices and the internet and the services that they have to access through the internet. But a skills survey revealed that only 15 of the 55 were at 80% proficiency to to really provide strong customer service in these areas. We reallocated some money where we had a chunk and all of these expenses were coming out of the line in library books and media. We've broken them out so that they reflect the actual expenditures. Our liability insurance went up, and there were some decreases on here too. Questions? Pretty straightforward.
In line 91110 on capital, you've reduced your building improvements by $65,000.
Yes. This year we've done some major things. We've repaired some fencing along the side of the building, and we're painting the entire inside of the building. Next year we're not going to have those needs.
See, then just to make sure we're all on the same page, you've got a $2,132,000 operating budget. You generate $233,000, and you're using about $100,000 of fund balance. And then the county's allocation, Maryville's allocation, and Alcoa's allocation all are staying the same.
Exactly.
Okay. And for members of the committee, the library was one of those organizations where all the jointly funded entities, such as GIS, library, and et cetera, they all came in and presented all three governments at the same time so we could make better use of everyone's time.
Do you have any more questions for KC?
This one under line number 204. If I'm looking at this correctly, your request for the state retirement is only $1,858.
I know. Ashley, you explain. We apparently have paid in because we haven't had anyone retire forever, and we got this very nice discount this year because we haven't had people retire.
It surprised us too.
Yeah, we checked it and double checked it.
I'm not complaining.
I was thrilled, but I mean, it was like, what?
we received notice from the state that this particular division of the state retirement system, their experience was such that they were able to lower the bottom line is on an actuarial basis, it is 100% funded.
Yeah. On
an actuarial basis. Now, to totally confuse everybody, it has an actual liability of $1.7 million for that division of the plan. But actuarially, it's funded. Now, to complicate matters, this year, Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, we have a requirement under the General Accounting Standards Board or Governmental Accounting Standards Board that we have to implement Statement 67, which means we have to go to additional disclosure requirements in our audit, in our notes section of our audit. And then Statement 68 comes into effect where we have additional financial booking requirements on our actual financial statements related to that for not just the library, but for all elements of the county's retirement. And just for everybody's disclosure, everyone that works for the county is a member of the TCRS. So it's not a separate plan that the county has. And the state retirement system is in the top 10 of the better funded state retirement systems in the country. So, but this is we had one other division of the plan that was essentially flat. It might have gone up 0.1%, but this one decreased from a little over 9% to 0.30%. Hope it didn't confuse everybody too bad.
The amount of contribution made annually by the county is actually computed by TCRF.
That is correct. And they just had their most recent actuarial report. They do that every other year, and they also had an experience report, which tells you how, if there's any behavioral changes in the demographic makeup of the retirement system.
It's like having a good year when you're self-insured.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, that's one of the things we're discussing right now. If we're going to have to disclose it, and it's a number that, you know, people read more into it than what there is, why shouldn't we just go ahead and leave the contribution rate the same? At least you're whittling down the liability, the actual liability. But this section of TCRS's plan is 100% funded.
And one other question on line 500-333 on license.
Yes.
That is, because I noticed we didn't have anything budgeted.
Right. What that was is we have a lot of subscription or fee-based databases and services that we pay an annual subscription or license for, and they were coming out of library books and media, but they're really not, they're not physical, they're a subscription. So they needed to have their own space. And so that's what we've done is I have taken that chunk and I've pulled it apart so that it represents the actual expense.
What is this line 500-205? Is that dependent? CL.
Right here.
That's dependent insurance.
You've not had it in the past?
An employee was hired last summer and had a dependent, and the money wasn't there. So we had to reallocate and move it. So I reallocated part, and then, well, actually I reallocated all of it, but I had to move it from different places. That's the cafe. I have one full-time employee, and she has a dependent.
Any other discussion or any other questions? Thank you, Casey.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you for the library cards also.
You're welcome.
I just hope some of the board up there, members up here use it.
Well, no, I need to come give you a class on how to use your iPad and your tablets to get resources online.
I'd say we all need that. Okay, next up is general purpose schools. Rob?
Good evening. Great to be with you tonight. And let me first say a thank you to the Budget Committee, and thank you to the library folks for hosting it over here. This is probably the most hospitable Budget Committee meeting I've been to in my 5 years here. So I want to just thank you for that. It's really very nice. And just having the ambiance and the food here was just really nice. So thank you all. The school budget, school department is proud and pleased and feels most blessed to submit to you and recommend to the Budget Committee a balanced school budget for 2014-15. And as Mr. Logan has reminded me often, his 13 years as being the fiscal director of the Blount County school system, he says we have never brought an initial budget request to the Budget Committee being balanced. And Dr. McNally, our board chair, myself, and Mr. Logan are make up the Budget Committee for the school department, and it is our job to prepare that and then to present and recommend that to the Board of Education, which we did last Thursday evening in a special called board meeting and that was approved to be sent on to you all and to make this budget request now to the Budget Committee of $81,700,000. We still have significant needs to be addressed that are well beyond what we're asking for in our balanced budget, but felt like that given the current set of dynamics and where we are, both as a school system and as a general county, we felt like it was best and really put forth our best effort, and I give a lot of credit to Troy Logan on this, is to bring forth a balanced budget before the committee tonight. Before I ask Troy to come up and provide just a little bit of the detail here for you and then answer questions, we'll both be glad to answer any questions that you may have. I certainly want to take this opportunity to thank all of you and the Board of Commission for your wisdom and placing the 0.5% sales tax referendum on the ballot to allow our citizens to vote on May the 6th and hopefully bring back to the county the tax dollars that are already being paid and generated in our two cities. So we're very hopeful that will occur, and then perhaps that revenue could be to help us address some of our most pressing needs in our school system. So I'd like to ask Mr. Logan to come up now and to address some specifics on the budget. Thank you all.
Thank you. I will just want to provide a little bit of detail both on the revenue and the appropriation side for the general purpose school fund, and then if you have questions to dig in the weeds a little bit, I'd be happy to answer what I can. Again, as Mr. Britt said, we've got a total budget request of $81,700,000. On the revenue side, there are three numbers that make up the majority of that budget. On the property tax, local property tax side, we based that budget on the value of the penny as recommended by the mayor in his office. And on the local sales tax revenues, we based that budget on the current year collections, where we're at right now, plus a 2% growth for next year. And I guess on state revenues or BEP revenues, that number is my forecast only based on historical and what we got last year. We have not gotten anything from the state in the form of an estimate. I expect to get that within the next 2 weeks. I don't know if that number will be up or down from what I have put in the budget. I did put in a budget of, it's about an increase of $500,000, but that's based on what I know about the governor's proposed budget and how that lined up with last year. So that's how we came up with that number. But we'll have to amend this budget up or down once we find out what that revenue is from the state. On the appropriation side, what we included or what are new things that are increases in the budget are these, and I'll hit the larger of the items. We have included a compensation increase for our classified or our non-teacher personnel of a step raise plus a 1.5% increase on the base being $7.25 an hour. So it went from that to $7.35 an hour. That's the 1.5% increase. On the compensation for our certified employees or our teachers, we have included an amount of $700,000 in the budget for teacher compensation. What that looks like is subject to collaborative conferencing with the Blount County Education Association and the Board of Education's management team. And they are in the process of having meetings and having sessions where they are trying to collaborate and come to an agreement of how that $700,000 will be paid out in the form of compensation for teachers. We do have, as all budgets, I believe, an increase in our workers' comp and GL premiums. That's an add right now of $109,000 for next year. On the TCRS side, we were not so lucky to get a discount. They raised the teacher retirement from 8.88% to 9.04%. And the classifieds, I think Randy mentioned, a slight increase from 11.35 to 11.36%. So, but the dollars to do that for us is about $100,000 increase in our budget. The last big item that we did have an increase for has to do with bus contracts. We added back the 4 days that we cut last year for the current year. We've added that back. We've also increased their mileage and seatage rates by about 4%, and the same on some special ed buses. The total cost increases on bus contracts is about $260,000. Those are the major increases that are in the appropriations budget. Again, $81,700,000. Do you have any? That's all I've got. What questions do you have of us?
Troy, under 189, 500, 189, that 600,000, that's got to be a new line item, but I mean, where?
That is the wages part of the certified compensation that I said was $700,000. Let me break that down. $600,000 in compensation, $100,000 is for FICA, Medicare, and TCRS contributions. Not knowing again how we apply that $600,000 in a raise until collaborative conferencing is complete, I had to put that in a lump sum account. It's the easiest thing for me to do.
Thank you.
Any other discussion or questions?
Before we on the age, did we go back to the full load now? Are you back to the number you had before last? Teacher's age?
On teaching assistants, no, we eliminated about 50 part-time TA positions this year. We are not adding any of those back for next year. What we did do, however, we did add 2 days to the existing TA's contracts. So, and we had cut their days also last year. We cut their days by 13. We've added 5 back this year. We're going to add 2 more days back next year so that they can attend and participate in professional development at the schools. It's a good question.
Is there any other discussion or any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Troy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. 51-220 and 51-230. Those are legal notices for the beer board and for the budget committee. Does anybody have any questions for Randy on that? Budget committee's 400. Beer board was 200. They do. Move on now to 51-900, other general administration. Randy, you want to discuss that? Sure.
The first account 211, or first line item 211 for retiree insurance, that is an increase of about $12,400, and that is based upon the information that departments have turned into us on the anticipated retirements that they foresee coming up during this year. Audit services, that is the fee that we pay the state comptroller's office to perform our audit. We've not received anything that indicates that it'll be any higher than what our agreement is for this current year. Communication, we're recommending that at the same level of where we think we'll end this year, which is about $145,000. I believe that is the consolidated expenses related to our Verizon contract, if I'm not mistaken. The only thing that you would see, and that is, as I understand it from the history of the county, there was a desire by the county commission, some previous county commission, where the county at the time wanted to get benefit of consolidated purchasing, and all that was bid out under one account, and we put it in other general administration. The charges that you might see in an operating department would be for data service plans related to iPads or those types of devices. Those you would see in those operating departments. But this is basically what we spend as a county on wireless services. Those data plans, by the way, are preferred pricing for county government. So the departments are still getting benefit of that consolidated purchase. Legal services, we're estimating $65,000 for next year, which is about where we project this year to be. We've been using our lawyer a little bit more this year than what we did the previous year. And we have a legal notice here. Pauper burials, we are projecting $5,000 for next year, which is about where we think we'll end the current year. Postal charges, we consolidate all those under other general administration. We're projecting those to be at $166,000, the same as the current year's forecast. Utilization is going down, but as you know, the cost of postage has been rising, and that's offsetting our decreased use. Other contracted services is down. We've tried to improve our budgeting in this area. We found where we need to charge some of these contracted services out to other accounts rather than lumping them all in here. I would give them a couple of examples.
In the other contracted services or the GIS services that Ray presented, medical examiners, autopsies, the USI Consulting Group, East Tennessee Development District, and Tennessee County Services Association.
One of those areas we're trying to improve on is, if you were to ask me what is the value of the business where we have interlocal agreements, for example, with Maryville or Alcoa. We can't go to one line and tell you what that is. We've got to go hunting through our general ledger basically to find that. So we're trying to improve on that where it makes a little more sense. And part of that is because over time they've been charged to different line items. So we're trying to consolidate that to where it makes a little more sense. Liability insurance for the county is charged in this area, and that's an area where we're seeing some increases in cost. Trustees commission is what we pay the trustee for collection of taxes. Workers' comp, $80,000 increased cost there. That's been buried in other places. We're pulling it out and putting it in one place. And that's related directly to our experience. And then other charges, we've decreased that line down to $5,000. And then legal notices. Oh, that's our indigent billing. I don't know why it's named legal notices. That is an in and an out. We receive the money, we turn right around and pay it out. If we collect $1, we pay $1. If we collect $1 million, we pay $1 million. Yeah, we're not going to call it. We'll see if we can find something that's a little better, more descriptive of that. It's just a challenge, folks, when you got, we're a 1957 county, so we're going to have some oddities that don't make sense by today's standards. I mean, that's a long time ago. Any questions on any of those other general administrative items?
506, Randy, liability insurance. Is that the amount we paid for the lumber on the stock?
Yes.
Is there any more discussion, or does anyone have any more questions for Randy?
Just to clarify that one, the rate for the current year, for the 15 years, is going to be $510,000. The balance of that is for basically the surcharge, catching up for all those shortcomings of underfunding it over the past years. So roughly $500,000 is current charge, and almost $300,000 is going to be for past years underfunding.
Okay. Anything? Okay, we'll move on to 54-310, fire prevention and control.
This is where we're paying other fire service organizations in the county, the volunteer, Blount County, and then I think there's 4 not-for-profit volunteer fire departments that we're contributing to. Those are, with the exception of Blount, the others are 36. I think it's $3,750, and that's not changed in recent years.
Any questions on the fire prevention? Move on to 55590, other local welfare services. Helen Ross
Yeah,
McNabb.
Helen Ross McNabb, that's right. So this is our contract with Helen Ross McNabb, and we have a revenue that's listed right under it that comes in to offset that amount of money. That comes from the state of Tennessee. The revenue does.
It's passed through.
It is a pass-through, not to be confused with us funding not-for-profit organizations. Helen House McNabb is a not-for-profit, but this is providing a service, I think, in juvenile services, if I'm not mistaken.
And I think mental evaluations.
We've previously given you the value of the penny, which is our estimate right now is $310,800. We'll probably have some refining to do on the property tax number for next year once we kind of conclude all the collections for the current year. We're not ready to do that quite yet. Payments in lieu of taxes. This would be what we traditionally have received from the Department of Interior for payment in lieu of taxes for the portion of the national park that is in Blount County. We have had media reports that will not be granted unless the Congress acts a separate bill. In the last negotiation, it was excluded specifically, so they're like $60 million worth of what the federal government calls transfer payments to local governments and state governments where the federal government owns real estate within states or county governments. There has been a bill introduced. I've not been able to ascertain at this point whether it stands much chance of passage. As we all know, there are challenges in Washington, and I'm not going to sit here and predict to know what's going to happen, but there is a likelihood that number would go down. So of that $958,000, $238,000 roughly is what the Department of Interior has been paying Blount County. Mixed drink tax, we're not looking for any appreciable change in that, so right now we have an $88,000 estimate for next year. Bank excise tax, we're not estimating any increase in that right now. It's at $34,000. Then there's a separate tax called the Interstate Telecommunications Tax. I guess the state legislature just felt good one year and thought they were going to help somebody, but that brings in $6,400 to us. And to be honest with you, there's a lot more paperwork to it than there is benefit from it. Cable franchise fee, this is the balance over and above what is appropriated to the highway department. So we're estimating about $70,000 to the general county fund. Other permits for adult establishment licensing. Then interest income, lease rentals is the same. The recycled materials is a negligible amount of money, $1,500. There will be no sale of surplus property approaching $500,000 that we estimated for this year. We're anticipating having the sale this spring, which will be sometime this month, is when we'll sell the property that we've identified as no longer being needed by Blount County. $9,000 grant for children and youth. Hall income tax, we're estimating that at about $550,000 this year. I guess you've seen in the paper where there's been some speculation about whether that tax needs to be modified, and I think that's just differences of opinion. I think we were advised last week in a conference call that there have been 7 different bills introduced on that particular subject. But we're not anticipating anything changing the, I don't foresee anything happening that would have a negative impact on what Blount County would receive next year. And we're estimating that at $550,000. Beer tax, we're anticipating it staying status quo at about $19,000. Most of what you've been reading is that with the changes that the legislature has adopted, because Tennessee is perceived to have an unfair tax structure for beer. You also have the reduction of alcoholic beverage consumption in general. There's a recent article on that. So naturally, when you've got consumption going down and tax structures being altered to help increase consumption or sales, the net effect is probably going to be negligible. Alcoholic beverage tax, estimating that at $120,000. The home-based grant that was just mentioned earlier for Helen Ross McNabb for juvenile services. Other state revenues of about $16,000, and then you'll see some revenue coming in from Maryville and Alcoa that we moved the account that we're bringing that in as. We think that's a little more reflective of what the chart of accounts that the comptroller's office has given us. Operating transfers of about $219,000, and then as of right now, we're projecting to have to spend about $4.6 million worth of fund balance to balance this budget as is before you. I would, until we conclude all of our analysis of the property tax collections, I wouldn't get too married to that number right now until we determine what the final analysis is on our property tax.
Randy, the 4.6 that you're talking about, does that include the supplements, or is that without the supplements that everyone added?
Without.
That's the proposed budget without any supplemental requests being approved. That's the same question the mayor just asked.
That's correct. It's without any supplements that have been presented. And this is consistent with what I advised you last year. If we go down the road of using fund balance, you're going to end up making a commitment to do that for 2 years.
Have you looked at the figure if we add the supplements in as to how much of the fund balance we'd have to use?
No, I was going to let this body tell me what they were inclined to consider and then run that number.
Adopting the budget without the supplemental, what would you project fund balance to be, unrestricted fund balance, if we approve this budget? Undesignated or unrestricted?
Well, it kind of depends on how we end this year. And until I get that property tax number, I don't really feel comfortable telling it. Remember, last year, one of the primary reasons we ended up last year with about a $3 million surplus was because of the reimbursements we received from the state and federal government. So I thought we'd end the year $500,000 in the hole. We ended up $3 million of good. That make me look like a very good forecaster. Well, if I'm going to miss it that way, I'd rather miss it that way than otherwise. We ended last year, June 30, 2013, with about $11.3 million in undesignated fund balance. Well, we're showing you right now that the budget for the current year assumes we would use 3.8. So if we use 3.8, that takes you down to what, 7.6 or somewhere along in there. And then if we had to spend 4.6 off of that, then that gets you down to a very, very small number. Too small, in my opinion.
Questions, discussion? That's all I have. Do you have anything else, Randy?
At our meeting next month, next week actually, but at our regularly scheduled meeting of the Budget Committee, I'd like for that meeting to be dual purpose. The first part of the meeting we'll conduct regular business. Then the second half of that meeting, I'd like for us to spend some time talking about debt service and capital, because those kind of go hand in hand.
Set aside capital when you reduce the fund balance.
It is.
$3.5 million for that.
Any other discussion? Move to adjourn.
I have a question. Yes, we'll ask questions.
Go ahead. Wait, you make a statement, you can't ask a question. This item's not on the agenda.
Can't ask a question? I just wanted to verify some numbers.
If you could, any questions can be submitted in writing and they'll be responded to in writing.
Okay, I'll just make a statement. Okay, my name is Douglas Benton from Alcoa, District 2. See, from what I understand, we're about $225 million in debt. We spent about $6 million more than we brought in. I was looking at the from the Tennessee State County, I guess, expenses list, which lists all 95 counties, and out of 95, we're number 8 for how much we owe, which is around $220 million. We have about 123,000 population. The next one in line, Wilson County, has about 113,000, pretty close to us. They only have 156,000 in debt. Washington County has 122, about the same as us. They only have 153,000 in debt. Sevier County has about 90,000 people. They only have 126,000. I mean, it goes down from here. Let's see. Cumberland County, about half the size of ours, is only 66 million in debt, about a quarter of our debt. Sullivan, Madison County, same thing. Murray County, 1/5 of our debt, about 40,000 less than population. It's we're number 8 out of 95 in debt. That's pretty sad. Property tax rate. You mentioned don't get married to that number. That scares me. Are we going to have a tax increase coming up? Property tax increase coming up? Thank you.
Any other items not on the agenda for discussion? Thank you.